Right, afternoon everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of FGS TV. And today we have a proper esteemed panel, so I'm really pleased. So, I mean, I could introduce them, but I will do a brief introduction to Jan. Jan is somebody I've worked with for a few years now. Jan, you're big and brave enough to introduce yourself.
Yep, so my name is Jan Flores. I've been in the gaming industry for a number of years now. Currently, I work for a company called Gaming Innovation Group, and we are essentially a leading B2B gaming provider. And my role at GIG is the Director of Production Operations. So I'm responsible for all the systems essentially that our platform sits on.
Right, brilliant. So just Gaming Innovation Group, if you're listening in Malta, which I can see quite a number of people are, you would know them. But around the world, you might not. But a lot of if you bet online, there's a fair chance you've been using one of their platforms. Yeah, using one of the people who use their platforms. You just wouldn't know it's not a household name. So Martin Bradbury.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Martin Bradbury. I lead the Green Lake Cloud Services and Operational Services Business Unit for Hewlett Packard Enterprise across the UKI and MESA region.
Brilliant, thanks Martin. Nice Brummy accent coming through. Reuben.
Hi Peter, I'm Reuben Melville. I am the worldwide HP Green Lake Channel Category Manager. So I've actually been involved, Peter, in selling these consumption services for around 7 years. And my role really focuses on working with our partners to be able to help talk to their customers about HP Green Lake.
Yep, there you go. Learned something already. 7 years. I didn't know it had been going for 7 years. So one of the things that we'll be talking about today, and I will say that I'm passionate about, is the cloud. Yeah, journey to the cloud, how people use the cloud. And I'll just do a little bit of a spin and just tell you how I see it. And now 10 years ago, when I set this business up, I had so many people saying, what are you doing looking at infrastructure? What on earth are you doing? It'd be dead within 5 years. Because everyone you're talking to, they're saying, we're going public cloud, we're all going to the cloud. It's like the national grid. Everyone will be using it like that. And I thought, yeah, maybe you're right. And I must admit, I was a little apprehensive because so many people said it. It didn't quite happen that way, although a lot of people have gone there. And so people sometimes, from what I waffle on about on LinkedIn sometimes, think I hate the public cloud. Couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, you know, from the Oprah Winfrey interview I had the other day, she probably thinks that. Yeah, but I don't. My whole business is on the public cloud. Yeah, so we park that. That's okay. But the cloud, public cloud, private cloud, whatever you want to call the private cloud, on-prem or data center, whatever it may be, they're two different places. They do the same sort of things. It's what is best for your business, what is best for your app, what is best for where do you want to put it? If it's clearly a SaaS product, you want to put it in the cloud because you've got no choice. Yeah, you're going to go Salesforce, you're going to Office 365. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. So my business is all public cloud, but it didn't quite happen as people thought. So I'm going to pass this to Jan, to be honest, because you've gone through a few journeys and I've known you for a few years with a couple of different companies, and your mindset might have changed slightly. We all learn, or maybe you've always stayed there. Just so you're aware, Jan to me is one of the big thought leaders that I have met. I've been in the industry, hate to say it, for 38 years. Yeah, my word. Yeah, that's why I'm getting a vaccine next week, because I'm that old. And but yeah, as a thought leader, what do you feel about where people place things, and how important is it, and what should people be looking for, really?
So it's a key question, right? One, they really needs to understand their workload before they take any decisions. And as you said, there are things which belong on the public cloud, and there are things which do not belong on the public cloud. From my experience, I could say that applications and tools like, for example, SaaS products, right, are almost practically a no-brainer, right? One cannot discount the the amount of innovation and services that the public cloud brings to the customer. And when used correctly, it is of great benefit. However, one really needs to understand their workload. There was a time when people kind of really rushed with their decisions and didn't really study what they are taking to the cloud. And from my experience, I could say that lifting and shifting your infrastructure to the public cloud is generally a bad idea. You want to be clever. You want to understand what you are doing. Every company has a mixed workload, right? There are cloud native applications which are born to be set up in the cloud, and there's a lot of legacy that a lot of companies kind of carry on, which may not be the best idea to shift it to the cloud. So, I mean, if we look at Gig, we kind of opted for install anywhere approach. We have a mixed workload. We have many different products. We have our platforms are quite complex, and we use a hybrid. We use things which are cloud native, will find their way to the cloud, and all the stuff that somewhat resides on VMs and requires high compute, high memory, and high storage sits within data centers. So the strategy that we chose was very much of an install anywhere approach, right? We want to have the ability and the flexibility to install our applications anywhere.
Oh, okay. So it's when I first, not when I first went, when Jan first went to Gig, they were all cloud, weren't they? Pretty much. Mostly.
It was I would say 70-30.
Yeah. Okay. And it was sort of born in the cloud. It was a younger company. It's only about 10, 11 years old. Yeah.
Yes, probably less than that. But there was in the past there was a cloud strategy. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of I mean, looking back, it's one can say that perhaps we kind of rushed into just lifting and shifting our infrastructure to the cloud.
Well, I've just had a question come through from Anonymous, which is absolutely fine. And I'll read it verbatim, actually, Jan. What kind of production/solution would function better on-prem versus the cloud? What's on Gig's platform didn't make it feasible to run on the cloud? And then it says costs. Yeah.
So it's not a question, I think, of production, test, dev, and so on. It is basically what is built for the cloud. For instance, stuff that is designed to run inside containers is a very good use case to basically put into the cloud. Stuff that can leverage SaaS solutions is stuff that belongs in the cloud. Stuff that is running on VMs, stuff that is somewhat running with suboptimal code, or perhaps is quite intensive on data platforms which require quite a bit of compute and high storage. One needs to rethink if it actually belongs in the cloud. Of course, when you are running it in the cloud, you are essentially hiring infrastructure, shared infrastructure from someone else at a premium.
Yeah, so the premium meaning it's a lot more expensive. It can be.
Yes.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah. Now, tell me, I think I know my answer to it, but I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to go through all three of you. Reuben, what do you think people love about the public cloud? Give me two things. And actually, I don't mind if you all say the same things. It probably emphasises it better, which is great. But give me two things they like about the cloud, because you're dealing with people who do both. And I'm going to ask three of you.
Glad you're limiting me to the two. So I would say definitely increase business agility, and that would be then being able to scale as well. So being able to respond to business demand, but also then being able to maybe launch new things into the market in a quicker fashion. They're two of the things that I often see coming up in the conversations we're having.
So they haven't got to spend that 12-week cycle, go to tender, buy some stuff, wait 6, 8, 10 weeks, as we see regularly now, to get stuff and then spin it up.
Yeah,
Agility.
yeah, and if you think, Peter, how often is IT blamed for missing opportunities, etc., because they haven't been able to respond in a quick enough fashion?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they look at the cloud.
Martin.
Well, now Reuben's had the easy answers. I'll have to think of something more difficult. For me, it's I think just trying to add a bit of variety to it is it's that lack of upfront investment. So it means that as an organisation, I can trial things out in the cloud. I can test, big data questions possibly without having to spend millions of dollars on infrastructure. I can kind of spin something up. I can try it. I can fail fast and switch it off again. That for me is one. And I think the pay as you go, which is kind of tied to the same thing really. That kind of pay as you go model, which is I think really really powerful.
Yeah, no, they were two ones I was coming up with. So yeah, two. You can have one or you can have three. I'm generous. Yeah.
Perhaps one of them can be a repetition, but my first one would be innovation. There's a lot of systems and services which are made available in a very simple form to the public for consumption. So that is something which is exceptional, I would say. The other obvious one is time to market. Just with a few clicks, you can get going, and I would say scalability as well.
Yeah. So you can scale up. Yeah. Quickly. You can put things. These are similar. The agility, the time to market. You can do things because businesses now looking for that agility. They're looking time to market. They're not looking to wait 6 months to get an idea out. Otherwise, you're behind the curve, aren't you? No, and this is where the cloud wins hands down to me, or that way of doing things. But I think that's really interesting answers, and that's how when I talk to people all the time, that's why I go to the cloud. That's why I go to the cloud. Costs are now becoming more and more at the forefront of everything. We're seeing it a lot now, where the cloud strategies are great. Some strategies are a bit strange with clients, where they'll have 3 different clouds, and then they get a bit complex, very complex on the security side. But so I'm backing away. Let's back out of this. So the great things we like, it's fast. You can spin stuff up. You can time to market. You've got innovation, and you pay for what you use. Now, so if we could do that on premise, on a data center, because to be honest, if you do it on a data center, it's exactly the same as going to the cloud to me, apart from it's not shared and somebody else is managing it. Yeah, it's very similar. And if you can spin up from a data center or your data center or this is how old I am, yeah, in your computer room, yeah, then that seems like a halfway house. Seems to be. Did you get better performance, Shan? Did you have more or not? Was it what was the experience like from cloud to data center?
Look, there isn't it is very difficult to measure.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It is very, very difficult to measure, but the overall feel is that yes, we got much more bang for the buck when it comes to performance. Specifically, you do not have all systems running at full load at the same time and having just even with a basic converged system, right? You can leverage the extra IOPS that are not being consumed by another system, so that shared infrastructure can constantly be leveraged for the systems which are constantly or the systems which really require that extra performance. Yep. So yeah, the short answer is yes.
Yep, brilliant. No,
and it's not only at storage, it's across. So it's storage, memory, storage and compute.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what I'm seeing it, exactly what we're seeing. So before I jump onto the guys on the Green Lake side, on the trends into the cloud, no, I won't. I'll ignore what I was going to say, but you don't know what it was, so it doesn't matter, does it? Don't know when I said that. So one of the things that's happening now that we're seeing, the consumption model, as some people call it, pay as you go, as you do in the cloud, and we have to spin things up or utilize things to market really quickly. The big manufacturers recognize this. You can, it wasn't all going to be cloud or on-prem just like that, and you pay capex or on a lease or cloud. There was clearly, the big manufacturers aren't stupid. Yeah, some of them act like it, but they aren't. So they are looking for that middle ground. Okay, we want to offer that to the customer, as the cloud does, because everyone likes these nice things, the agility, time to market, the pay as you go. And so, there's a few of them. VMware, you can now pay as you go. They've got a new thing out there. That's a software. Yeah. HPE GreenLake, EMC, no doubt, are doing it, and Pure are doing it with PAS and the likes. It's the way the world's going. Yeah. So, actually, Reuben, can you just explain why HP went down this route, or have I just explained it, and what it does? So that, not too much of a sales pitch, but more why it's happened and how easy or difficult it is. Because as a partner, and we sell this, we find it a little bit difficult to get our heads around it. So you're going to clear that mist, yeah?
So I will keep it short, but to be honest, the discussion that we've had, Peter, you've kind of really lined it up nicely in the fact that the conversations I'm having with partners and the customers is exactly what you've been talking about. Why do you like the cloud? Because every customer is on a cloud journey. They will be using elements of the cloud, etc. And as you sort of saying, a few years ago, lots of customers were going to the public cloud. The reality is the conversations we're now having is it's much more about a hybrid cloud. And so why are we looking at that? It is market demand. Customers are looking to be able to do this. In fact, one of the partners I was talking to yesterday was all around about the fact that if you look at the software providers, etc., they've gone to this subscription model. And so now they're looking at the hardware vendors, etc. How can we move forward as well? And actually, we sort of spoke about HPE GreenLake. It's actually been available for 10 years, Peter, in various forms. So we've really been able to develop this.
That's when we both had some hair, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And a few years ago, we actually bought a company called Cloud Cruiser. And that's when we really started to take this seriously, looking at moving to everything as a service. Now it's Cloud Cruiser, the metering software, or we call it consumption analytics, that sits within HPE GreenLake. That is what makes this a true consumption model. So what we're doing is we're metering the environment, so you can have it in a variety of.
Hang on a second, reel back a little bit.
Yeah.
So you put some compute, some storage, some networking. The hypervisor?
Yeah, we can have this.
Yeah. Okay.
So Antonio is talking about everything as a service. We're deploying the capacity as and when required. Okay, we're metering it, so we know when we have to deploy more. Now, one of the things we're talking about, the agility, being able to scale. So not only are we providing the technology according to what the customer needs, Peter, what do they actually need, but also what we provide is a variable capacity. So like an on-site buffer that the customer can scale up, but they can also scale down. And they're only charged for that as and when they use it. So that's why we're able to talk about being able to provide the cloud that comes to you. So it is about providing the infrastructure with cloud-like agility. You're able to scale up, scale down. Martin was talking about one of the important things is holding on to the cache. Customers get that benefit as well, because we're deploying the capacity as and when required, and they're paying for it over time.
Well, fair enough. You can't, though, it's not quite as flexible, is it? You can't scale down to nothing. You've got to go, I think it's 80%, is it? Though some of the other vendors are 100%, but you can go down, but you can't just pull everything out, can you?
Yeah, so there is a committed capacity that we're looking at, and on average, Peter, it is around 80%. It can be higher, it can be lower, but on average, it is around 80%. And then that variable capacity I'm talking about, over what the customer requires would be usually around 10 to 20%. So, but it does give that agility to be able to scale up and down. But you're right, there is a limit to how much you can scale in, because we're talking about infrastructure that's deployed within the data center.
So you've got it where you want it. You can use what you like. You can scale down to an extent. So it's really for customers that are going to be fairly static or going to move up quite quickly. Probably not ones that are moving loads and loads of stuff. It's not a platform you're using just to move things around to somewhere else.
No, so it's a variety of reasons why customers are using this. But yeah, you tend to be looking at customers that are growing over a period of time. You know, these solutions are on average, Peter, around 4 to 5 years. So you're going to get that growth as well. We see around about 25% growth on average within these solutions.
Right. Okay. So they're the sort of people we're looking at, which it's very cloud centric. People in the cloud are looking for that as well. So, Martin, I'm going to come to you. Give us an example. There you go. Put you on the spot. Give us an example. You haven't got to give names unless they're happy for you to give them names, where you'll put this somewhere, and give us a bit of scale as well. Small, large, medium.
So
relative to that, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples, right? So one of my favourites is from last year. Now, you can never name the best ones, can you? But this was an airport, right? And they signed up to the service in April last year. So at that point in time, that business was running at 3% of its typical capacity for obvious reasons due to the pandemic. They pursued GreenLake because it gave them that ability to build a service, scale it on demand, and not have to invest up front. Do we think an airport would have been spending several $1 million on infrastructure during the middle of a pandemic when their business was broken? Well, no, absolutely not. They wouldn't have done. But in terms of their ability to sign up to a service agreement and a contract and kind of scale that and grow it, absolutely they could do. So that gives you a sort of sense of, I guess, one of the differentiators for GreenLake. I can give you a couple of other examples. One we've just publicly announced in the last couple of days around a service provider called WaveNet, who are building their customer cloud offering on top of GreenLake because they absolutely want to leverage all of that benefit, that fast time to market, the end-to-end service from HPE to take that out. So there's some great use cases that we're working on with customers, Peter, and I think it comes back to that conversation about I think arguing about whether public cloud or private cloud is a bit like arguing about whether what's better, a hammer or a screwdriver, right? They're there for different purposes and they've both got a place in the toolbox. It's just a matter of where I'm going to use them. And if I use a hammer for a job that needs a screwdriver, it's going to get messy and expensive, right? And that's the reality of where I think we are. So what we bring with GreenLake is characteristics and capabilities for organisations that maybe don't want to or are not able to run those workloads in the public cloud. But I agree with you, and it's a workload-centric conversation first and foremost. Where is the most appropriate place to run that application?
So the hammer and the screwdriver, I put that out there, and I'm pleased you repeated it, but it wasn't for me. Somebody else made that, so I won't own it. I've had a couple of questions through. Who owns the asset? I'll keep you on the screen here, Martin, with HP GreenLake. Who owns the asset?
Owned by us. So the customer does not own the asset. The customer is a recipient of a service. You sign a service contract with your partner, and the asset is owned by HPE. Okay.
Now this other question that we've got from Roman, this is really interesting, especially with Jan on the call here, because I remember when we did the deal with yourselves that went into Amsterdam, but you're in Sweden, you're in Amsterdam, you're in Spain, you're in Malta, and the question is verbatim, what are you offering in terms of multi-region setup? Because this was really difficult at that time because we taught GreenLake at the time, and Malta can't have GreenLake at the moment, which is a shame, but we're not king canute. It will, no one's going to say in 20 years time it's not going to be there, or 5 years time it will be. And so multi-region, how does that work then? Because that can be challenging, I think.
Well, I'll grab that one first, and then Reuben, you chime in, because I think reading the question, I'm kind of getting the sense that it's kind of aimed maybe at, you know, the multi-region in the sense of a cloud multi-region. So, you know, where the public cloud providers obviously have to deploy in different geographies to kind of facilitate local arrangements. You know, GreenLake's very much about the cloud that comes to you, as Reuben said. So we're going to put that where you want it. So if you want to see that in your data center, in your corporate locations around the world, we can absolutely, you know, clearly do that. There are some restrictions in certain geographies and certain countries, like Peter said, primarily around just our ability to finance the back end of the deal, if I'm honest. But in terms of multi-geo, you know, you've got the ability to deploy that technology in that GreenLake solution.
So if you did a GreenLake solution, could you say, right, I want Spain, Sweden, Netherlands in one package?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We would probably structure that typically actually as local statements of work for different reasons, like tax and things like that. But for all intents and purposes, you would have a single master contract and just plug in.
Okay. And it's owned by HP. People are just buying a service here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
To be honest, it's the way we're seeing the world going. I mean, there was one. This is a cloud statement, which you think I won't like cloud, yeah, but it's not. One of the biggest banks in the UK, and everyone would know the name, but I'm not going to say the name, did a statement in 2018, and I really love this statement, that by 2022, 80% of their infrastructure would be in the public cloud. Now, when that statement was made, they had 27%, so they were looking at putting 53% in. That figure now that they've got up there is 16%. Yeah. And so people are thinking about, but that's infrastructure. But I know full well I know this company very, very well. They've gone for a lot of SaaS up there. Yeah. So they're doing exactly what Jan was saying. Let's put the right stuff up there. So it's just the way it's going. Right. I have got another question. I didn't really understand, but I'm going to try. Because I've answered the question at the first, right, there we go, verbatim again, and I'm going to have to try and one of the reasons for the adoption of public cloud might be to be close to the customer due to TTLS. Anyone got TTLS?
I think it's about response times, Peter, isn't it? I think it's about public cloud
network latency.
Yeah, probably Jan actually is probably better placed to answer this before I try and butcher it.
Yeah.
If I understand it correctly. What was the question exactly? As in, one of the reasons to be in the public cloud is because of.
Oh no, this bit's not. This is why I should be in technology, everybody.
Peter, let me frame it.
Yeah, what's the is the public. For the types of the reason for public adoption is to be close to the customer to have faster loading times.
Well, it depends where your customer is, because it can actually work against you. Specifically because people are actually moving their workloads towards the edge, closer to the customer. So yes, I mean, if you are targeting the US and you deploy your kit in some AWS or some cloud central main cloud state, then yes, you can get that performance. However, I don't think it is unachievable by using any other network vendor, to be honest. As long as it's a major carrier, it is something you can achieve. And also it depends on what you're doing, right? And there's a lot of solutions. Again, there are cloud-based solutions that will help you with, for example, having dynamic routing to speed up the network traffic across both sites, CDNs and so on.
Yeah,
it's
quite an open question.
It's one of the reasons, Peter, that we've got a couple of co-location partners that we work with in GreenLake, like Equinix, organisations like that have super proximity to public cloud connections. So actually, for all intents and purposes, you are cloud adjacent with a GreenLake solution. So, but I agree with Jan as well. The other area we're seeing a big kind of traction with GreenLake is edge-based workloads. That kind of proximity to the consumer or proximity to the data for the solution is absolutely critical. And I think that's, again, it comes back down to the workload question, right? If there's a benefit to running it in public cloud, fantastic, go ahead and do that. If there's a benefit or there's a need to run it, elsewhere, then that's where we come in.
That was asked by a CISO, actually, that question. So I think there's more security in it. But one of the things that we're seeing with security sides, especially if you've got more than one public cloud, is managing that becomes very, very difficult. You've got G Cloud, you've got Azure, as everyone's got, you've got AWS. Then I think you can be overburdening the security teams, and you'll also have on-prem. And so the security side must become very complex. I mean, have you seen that, Jan?
To be honest, this question kind of confused me, because I'm wondering if we're kind of taking it in the wrong direction.
I think we probably have.
I specifically didn't understand if we're talking about TLS in terms of security and so on. I guess it can be achieved regardless where you are. It's just having a security mindset.
Yeah. Okay. But Jen, so I'm probably going to wrap this up actually, because I think the main points have got across that there's right places. Yeah. If you've got a small nail, get a small hammer. Yeah. Don't get a screwdriver and whack it into the back of the screwdriver. Put it in its right place, but think about where it should go. And a total cloud strategy, I think, and this might upset a few people, is so last year. And when I'm saying there, is that what people said 10 years ago? The innovative thought leaders in the industry all seem to be saying, use cloud where it should be used, not just everything's going to go to the cloud. That's just my strategy. It's not really a strategy. It's a little bit of a lazy strategy usually, unless, like mine, that's my strategy, because we're not a major we're international because we're in Malta and we're in the EU. And we're in the UK, but we haven't got massive amounts of infrastructure. We're not running big databases. That's not what we are. So there are people who should be perfectly in the cloud, but it's not the strategy to go. So I think that's my takeaway. But also, you can now, what you do really like about the cloud, you can start to get now from the main manufacturers. So don't just think, I've got to go cloud or that. There is another way of doing this for most people. And all of the manufacturers, I will say, in another 3 years, it will be global and you'll be able to do it where you like. Yeah. At the moment, it's still quite a young market. And not a market, I don't know if it's the right term. It's still quite embryonic, although 10 years at HPE, but it's still not worldwide at HPE. Yeah. Now, there are certain, I don't know, Pure, I think, you can get that in Malta, but you can't get HPE. So I'm not saying that it's not going to not happen. So let's think about it, think about the right way of doing it, especially during these times. Since the COVID pandemic, delivery dates can go, as Jan's seen, 12, 16, 20 weeks. Yeah. And nobody can guess when it's going to turn up. That makes it really, really challenging and makes the GreenLake issue, this sort of issue, as a service issue, that's the suppliers. That is totally their remit. They have to sort that out. You're buying a service here. If they don't deliver that service, they've got a problem. So they will make sure that that service is delivered, I think, before normal CapEx. Yeah. And so, gents, just to make you aware, that was the most number we've ever had watching. So we obviously, it's a subject that people are interested in. And I think I really, really appreciated your insight, what's going on in the industry. And thank you very much, guys. So on that note, we'll turn it off. But thank you very much. Jan, Martin, Reuben, really appreciate your time. And I know it's valuable time.
Thanks, Peter.